Good morning, everyone. My name is Chris Forrester. I'm a journalist, and it's my job here this morning to guide you through some of the NDS perspective panels. Today we have a special one-on-one. Our guest is Mr. Harit Nagpal, the Managing Director of Tata Sky in India. Harit, good morning. Thank you for sparing the time. Could I ask you first to give us a little overview as to Tata Sky, its position in India, and the competition that you have in India?
Well, we in India are not new to pay TV. Pay TV has been there for years in India. They're close to about 120 million homes with pay television. But pay television as it existed in the country was largely run by analog cable guys, which essentially meant that the stakeholders who should have been getting paid from the revenues made by the cable operators were not making that revenue, which essentially were the government and the broadcasters. So it was one of the non-transparent kind of systems, which is where the direct-to-home or addressable digitalization guys came in. We were one of the first two. We started operations, I think, about exactly 5 years and a month ago. And then another 4 players followed about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So now it's 6 commercial operators and 1 non-commercial, which is the government operation market.
You're the new boy in town. You've been
Yes.
in the job for just a year.
Just a year.
What surprised you about the job, and maybe the challenges as well?
See, the operations of the job didn't surprise me because the operations of DTH are quite similar to the operations of telecom, which I was there in for the last 10 years. It's a technology-backed customer service, which is sold in a very fragmented manner to small bits of ARPU across the country. You have to segment the market and provide products and services for different segments. So it was quite similar. What surprised me was the high degree of taxation. Even the competition didn't surprise me because here we say there's a lot of competition and there's 6 players. Well, with telecom where I came from, there were 14 operators in a pretty nascent market. So, competition doesn't scare me. What surprised me was the amount of taxation that exists in this industry, and not coming from one source. The center taxes you, the states tax you through entertainment tax, and so on one side we are providing the service for free from the government, saying entertainment and information is the basic right of human beings, so we must provide it for free. But on the other side, when a commercial player comes in, you tax him to the extent of 30 and 40%. So that's what surprised me.
However, despite those challenges, overall the industry is growing at like a million a month.
Almost 1 million a month, yes.
I mean, that's
We got a large population for that, When you have a population which is 1.2 billion, and a lot of them are like have crossed the, the basic needs that they were striving for in the past. A huge middle class. Numbers like 1 million would surprise you in Europe, but numbers like 1 million a month don't surprise us in India. So that's.
However, I think you are the only nation on the planet that has 6 commercial players, the public broadcaster, Doordarshan, and 6 plus 1, and of course cable, but by any measure is 1 or 2 too many. People have been anticipating consolidation for some time. It hasn't happened. Do you see that action getting closer?
Logically should happen because I don't see, I haven't seen many industries where more than 2.5 or 3 players have survived, whether it's colas or candies or services. So, it's a rule of 3 really that survives everywhere. I think it's too early. There are industries which are parallel to this, which have taken 13 and 14 years to blow up to 13 and 14 players and then consolidate to 3. So it's going to happen. Whether it's 6 months from now or 6 years from now is anybody's guess.
Well,
but it's a difficult one to make it happen because consolidation in any other business happens over the year. Consolidation in this business requires going to every customer's home and repointing his dish, because if you're consolidating and operating out of 2 orbits and 2 satellites, it doesn't make sense. So you have to consolidate the back end too.
We'll come to the satellite challenge in a moment, but the usual rule of thumb is that you're either a shark or you get eaten. Now, are you playing the role of the shark, or are you going to be eaten?
Good question. Since we were the early ones, we were priced premium. We entered from main cities. We didn't enter from the villages and the rural areas. So therefore, we priced ourselves. We delivered great service. We spent a lot on our customers, and we charged them a little bit of a premium. It's only off late when we've seen that in a 6-player scenario, you can't operate on a premium, have we equated our prices to our competitors. So that's the phase that we are going through. I think we are here to stay. I won't say we are either a shark or going to be eaten. We are here to stay.
Good. I think that's the correct answer. Now, you just mentioned orbital positions, and they are not just important, they are in very short supply. There's a capacity crunch in many cases over India. What are you doing? What's being done to address that shortage of capacity?
You're absolutely right, because we have about 24 states and so many languages and dialects, so therefore need to create channels to satisfy each one of these languages. We have officially got about 700 channels that have been cleared by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. At best, the satellite capacity that can be made available for each operator covers about 250 to 300 channels. So, people like us have got to pick and choose to start with at this stage. But I don't think we can carry on picking and choosing, because further penetration into the country, further penetration beyond the 35 million that we have amongst all operators, will require us to provide the local channel and compete with the cable guy down there.
Yes, yeah, local, interlocal.
Yeah, so I don't think the government and the state and the satellite research organization has a roadmap that covers us for 900 channels going forward. Because that's what it will be a couple of years down the line, because the MIB is releasing about 60 to 70 more channels every year. So and they don't, so we'll have to fend for ourselves, and we'll have to strike alliances outside of Israel.
And it isn't just the 900 channels. As you add high definition to the services, you need elbow room.
Yeah, you need high definition, then you need there's OTT, of course, that flows on the broadband, but there is going to be push television, which is also going to consume bandwidth. So there are interactive services that will consume bandwidth. So it's not easy. We'll have to strike our own alliances with private operators, find our own road and roadmap. There's no way that we can survive by living on hope as the government provides us.
This show, if there's one strong theme that is emerging on day 3 of the show, it's over-the-top supply of content, and India will not be immune from that. The market is too appealing, too attractive. So how will first of all broadband have a greater impact, because at the moment it's a very modest, I'm told barely 1% of the nation. How do you see that evolving, and what will Tata Sky do in that environment?
You're right, because unlike most European countries, we do not have a legacy underground fiber network, and I don't think anybody's going to do it now. It happened after the World War. It's not going to happen now in any country which missed the boat at that time. It's not profitable. It doesn't make business sense for anybody to dig fiber into the ground at this stage with the kind of ARPUs that. So everything is going to be like wireless. There are advances that are being made in the wireless front. 4G licenses have been issued last year. Another set of 3G plus 4G licenses are coming up. We are hoping that will lay a wireless broadband framework of a platform for India.
And is it likely, I don't want you to make any forward-looking statements that will embarrass you, but is it likely that either through partnership or through your own license applications, you might have some of that capacity?
We don't need to. When milk is cheap, there's no point keeping a cow at home. So there are going to be many suppliers out there, and my customers will go and purchase their services, and we'll ride on them. if required, we'll make alliances with not one but multiple of them, because we are not in the business of supplying broadband.
Good, good. Doordarshan, the public broadcaster, carries all of the premier sports events on a sort of a must-carry basis. How do you cope with that in a pay TV environment? How can you add value to that which is being offered?
It's not easy. It's really not easy. We said that we're going to be delivering a target of addressable digitalization, but somehow over the last 5 years, the word addressable has been dropped and it's only digitalization. And Doordarshan is not addressable digitalization. It's pure digitalization. And digitalization is not the solution to the stakeholders not getting their fair share of what the customer pays for. So I can compete with another operator who's selling his goods cheap. It's easy for me to compete there because I just need to up my service or match his prices. But you can't compete with somebody who's offering it for free.
Yes.
So it's not a healthy situation. The government's already brought in 6 operators in the market. We are selling our product cheapest in the world. We have the lowest ARPU in the world. We have the lowest. When we acquire a customer, the acquisition price is the lowest in the world. I haven't seen any country which has got these kind of prices. There's no need to put a free guy next door.
And even worse, some of those ARPUs are going down. There's tough competition.
Yes, they are, because to pick up the next customer, I have to build packages which are cheaper. As the mix moves towards the lower packages, my ARPUs are obviously going down.
So how do you square that circle? How do you push the ARPU up? Extra services, extra bells and whistles, a sexy PVR.
It's all about segmented pricing. So you have to create products for different segments. So while you bring in a customer at $3.50 at that end, and a big mass of yours is sitting there, and you can't avoid them, because to avoid being marginalized in the market, you have to acquire a fair share of those guys. But in the meanwhile, you need to have a disproportionate share of high-value customers, people who seek better services and are willing to pay for it. And you have to play in both the segments. So you can't raise your prices. In fact, for the mass market, you'll have to continuously drop the prices. But for the discerning customer, you'll have to give him services, and which is why we're here. You have to give them services for which they will be willing to pay and make your margins there.
What sort of services might be on your radar?
All the services that are there, the services that are consumed by the consuming masses, the upper end of the consuming masses, are no different in terms of quality and timing versus developed markets like these.
Sure.
So all the services that you're talking about here, whether it's catch-up TV or pay-per-view or etc., all those services are.
Now, those 6 pay TV rivals, 5 pay TV rivals to you, they're all offering much the same bouquet of channels.
Yes.
How again do you differentiate a service?
Yeah, because as of now, the services that most people offer in markets like these, where you don't have access to exclusivities, it's a commoditized market. So in a commoditized market, the only way you differentiate is through the quality of service that you offer and the brand that you build.
Yeah.
These are the 2 things which you'll have to continuously keep investing in. Word of mouth plays a great role if there's a satisfied customer, especially in a commoditized sector like this. You have no choice but to be a great brand of service.
Now, India is also, amongst the challenges you have to face. You've talked about the high taxation, you've talked about the competition, but regulation is also very tight.
It is. In fact, I don't see, having introduced 6 players in the market and got the prices down to rock bottom, the cheapest in the world, I don't see a role for the regulator. In fact, he should be rechristened a facilitator and not a regulator, because in the resource constrained market that we have, where there is bandwidth that's short, where the taxes are high, and all of these can be resolved by government bodies. There are multiple ministries which are coming in the way of a player like us. The regulator also belongs to the bureaucracy, and I think he needs to be facilitating our stay and our growth rather than regulating it. Thankfully, he's had very little role to play in controlling the prices because we ourselves have fought ourselves to death.
Yeah.
So he doesn't need to do that for us.
Now, there's another kid in town in the shape of cable. And
Yeah.
cable is a developed, mature industry with some very major players. How do you see your competition playing out with cable? Because they're digitizing as well.
Are they?
Oh,
That's news to me because I've been hearing about it for some time, but I haven't seen much happen in that direction. Unfortunately, that's an area which is not grown very much. And if there was business to be had there, somebody would have got it. If there were customers wanting it and there were operators wanting to do that business, things would have happened. It hasn't happened because there are some constraints coming in the way. The last mile is a problem.
yes.
And we have operators who've been in the cable business, analog though, for many, many years. It would have been so easy for them to just digitize. But the very fact that they've not been able to do it means that there is something coming in the way. Because if there's a business model, if one guy doesn't do it, somebody else will. But they haven't done it so far, so obviously there is something coming in the way.
So do you think you can not relax? That's too strong a word. But do you think you can wait a little while before worrying too much about the competition from cable?
Yeah, since I've got 5 other competitors to worry about, another 6th is not going to worry me as much. But I don't think there is much happening on that horizon yet. I haven't seen any signs of anything happening in that horizon.
You mentioned regulation a moment ago and an appeal for the regulator to concentrate on things which that regulator should do. What would be your top 3 items in your wish list for a fresh look at regulation?
Bandwidth, taxation are the 2 big pieces that we talk. See, the commercial part we'll sort it out ourselves between us. Broadcasters are private businessmen, so are we. And we can sit on the table over a bottle of wine and sort out our issues. We don't need a regulator to come in there and sort the issues between us because both of us have commercial interests in mind and we'll reach a level there. The people that I cannot influence or fight are people who hold the bandwidth, hold the satellites, as well as people who tax us. And these are the 2 areas where we need help.
Well, thank you for coming to IBC. Thank you for sitting on our panel this morning. Will you make me a promise?
Tell me.
You'll come back next year.
Of course I will.
And we'll review this situation. And how many players might there be in the market this time next year?
We shall see. I mean, players will be there. Some may have just drifted, but they'll definitely be there.
Thank you ever so much for your time this morning.
Pleasure.
Really appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you.